Welcome to Let's Talk Brock.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Let's Talk Brock podcast. Today, we are joined by Alex Hobbs, Brock alumni from the Political Science program. Alex has an extensive background in research and law fields, so we are excited to talk about his career path and how he obtained his success. Thank you for joining us today, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So why don't we just start off by telling us what did you do after your undergrad degree, what you're currently doing, and just how your degree and various experiences during your time at Brock helped you get where you are today.
Sure. So after graduating from Brock, I went to law school. I got my Juris Doctor and my master's. And during that time, I had the opportunity to work for the Government of Canada within an agency of the Department of Finance. And I also was privileged enough to intern at the Treaty Bureau of Global Affairs Canada, which was the Department of Foreign Affairs prior to 2015. Now, since I've completed law school and passed the bar, I'm articling. And so what articling basically is it's kind of like, if I could compare it to anything, it'd be like residency in after med school. You have to join a firm and be under the supervision of another lawyer to make sure that by the time that you are called to the bar, you are a competent lawyer. And so I'm very privileged to be doing that articling at a firm called Cassidy Levy Kent. Cassidy Levy Kent is one of the top international trade law firms in Canada and the world, according to Chambers and Partners. And we are in Ottawa, and our associated firm is in Washington, D.C. So we do things the main things that we do are international trade remedies. We provide counsel to both corporations and governments internationally. We do government procurement. We do export controls, which are also known as sanctions, and a few other things as well. It's incredibly it's economic law, and it's a very specific kind of regulatory and administrative law. And it's the people here are genuinely some of the most intelligent people, if not the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. I go to work every day and I feel dumb, not because they make me feel dumb, but because of how smart and exceptional they are. So it's a huge privilege to be here. And subsequent to my call to the bar, so that's basically the day that you become a lawyer. I intend to stay on as an associate and therefore an international trade lawyer, which would be a massive privilege and a dream come true. In terms of how Brock got me here and opened these doors to me, I'm sure as you ask more questions and speak more about what my experience at Brock was like, you'll get a better feel for that. But I can honestly say that it is very unlikely that I would be here if not for the experiences that I had at Brock and the support that I was given at Brock as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very, very cool. And like you said, it's very specific. So I'm sure there's a lot of things that go into that. So kind of starting at your roots, you were a political science major at Brock. What made you choose political science? What drew you to the program?
Right. So funny enough, I started at Brock in psych, not in political science, and there are a couple of reasons that I chose Brock. One of them was proximity to both family and friends. I grew up in Niagara on the Lake, so it's pretty close to where I grew up. And the second thing is the Brock psych program is pretty good program. So that was those two things together combined, and they were really the thing that drove me towards that. But my minor at the time was in political science, and as I was in university, I was really trying to figure out who I am as a person, and substantially, I would say I am a much different person now than I was even 6-7 years ago. And that transition really happened at Brock, and I realized pretty quickly that psych is awesome, and I did my minor in it. But political science was my real passion, specifically international relations. And so that's kind of what made me choose political science, was just exposure to it and realize, a recognition that, hey, I'm passionate about this. I think a lot of this stuff is really cool. And that's really what spurred the change, and that's why I chose political science.
That's awesome. So I didn't know that you actually started in psych. That's super interesting. Were there any experiential learning opportunities that you got, whether that be in your field that's outside of the classroom, whether that be in political science or whether that be in psych?
Yeah. So yeah, in my so the biggest one I would say would be in my final year, the political science department. I'm imagining you still have a similar course, but had an experiential learning course, and part of what they would do is they would set you up. If you're one of the students that gets into the class and the course, they would set you up with something that is in the field that you intend to pursue. So I was very lucky to have been given actually a position at a law firm in as an internship, basically as a part of this course. And not only did I get to spend time in an actual law firm in my final year when I was considering by that time I really decided that law school was what I wanted. So not only did I get that experience, but the first year of law school, so after your first year, it's very unlikely that you actually get an interim job because you don't really know what you're doing. But I was lucky enough to be able to leverage that opportunity into a job, a summer job, that helped me then leverage a bunch of other things that led up to where I am now. But that's the biggest and most important direct experiential learning opportunity that I was given. The second opportunity was an opportunity, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about it later. That I was provided was in I started this initiative, but the support that I was given from professors is really what made it possible, and that is starting Brock's Model United Nations club, which the club goes to New York. They go to the actual United Nations every year. So usually with debate clubs and UN teams and stuff like that, it's pretty internal. But in this case, you actually go to New York. You get to sit in the General Assembly. You get to see what that's like. The person who addressed us at our first Model UN was Samantha Power, who used to be Obama's at the time. I don't believe was she Secretary of State? I forget now. But she was no, she was the permanent representative to the United Nations, right? And she looked out. I'll never forget. She looked out at us and she said, "Wow, there's a lot of nerds in here." And that was my first exposure to the UN. But I wouldn't have gotten to do that had it been anywhere else. And then there are a bunch of other things mixed in there. I got to be the research and policy coordinator at the Students' Union. I got to be on student council. I was a representative to the political science department. So you had a bunch of other things that were thrown in there, but those two are the main two that really drove me to where I am now.
Yes, that is amazing. Those are all like kind of pinnacle experiences in your undergrad degree because, like you mentioned, without those experiences, you wouldn't have been able to start in a law firm so early and sit in the General Assembly of the United Nations. Those are all like amazing opportunities. Um, so you mentioned it a little bit, I believe, but you just briefly touched on it. But at your time or during your time at Brock, you had experiences working as a research assistant and coordinator. Can you explain a little bit of what this entails and your favorite part about it?
Sure. So the Students' Union at Brock actually has some really cool jobs, and I didn't know about them until I had a friend actually who told me at the end of our so we competed at the National Model United Nations Conference in New York. We came back, and a friend who worked at the Students' Union said, "Hey, like you might want to apply for some positions here. They're relevant." And what the research and policy coordinator really does is they advocate on behalf of Brock students to local, provincial, and federal government or the ministries of those governments that are focused on education, post-secondary education, to basically attempt to communicate, to advocate on behalf of students at Brock University for things that they want and that only the government can change. And that was an incredible opportunity. I stayed there for 2 years, and I made some fantastic friends that I still keep in touch with to this day. We talk pretty frequently, actually. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and I got some real, it's part-time work, so it was 20 hours a week in addition to school and extracurriculars. But the things that you got to do were actually applied stuff, right? You go to class and you're talking about government, and then you enter this, and I know it just seems like it's a students union, but you are actually talking to people who can make a difference. You're actually advocating, and you are writing persuasive documents to these people to attempt to have them change change policy track, and on a few items we actually did, which is really cool. And actually to this day I still have those experiences on my resume, and the things that papers, the policy papers that I wrote that or assisted with that helped change things. My resume still holds those as things that matter. To this day, I'm 26 now, and I graduated many years ago, well, not many, but 5 years ago. And still those are experiences that I can point to.
Yeah, it really sounds like your on-campus jobs and your on-campus experiences through extracurriculars have really kind of made your Brock experience what it is. So that being said, if you could give one piece of advice to a high school student, whether that be one coming into university, or even if you could go back and talk to yourself, what piece of advice would you give someone who is considering entering post-secondary education?
The biggest thing by far, in my opinion, is use this as an opportunity to find out where you like working, and the fields that you like working in. For a lot of people, you're choosing your university program at 17 years old. And the number of people that I see who get in and they pursue this degree because they decided, years ago that that's what they wanted and that that's what they were going to do, regardless of whether they like it or not. And they go through and they do that one thing, and then they get out and they realize that the only thing that they've done is school. And today, if the only thing that you've done is school, it's not the end of the world, of course, but you can be a lot more competitive by doing other things related to the degree you're pursuing, and you're only going to want to do that if you're doing something that you enjoy. I'm very fortunate that I found out that political science is something I'm very interested in, and still am. My master's is in international affairs with a focus in international economic policy. But like, knowing that that's something that I love is what allowed me to pursue these extracurricular opportunities. I wouldn't have done any of them really had I hated the field. And again, the number of people who are kind of going through university and really not liking it because they've chosen something that they don't like and they're pursuing it anyway, is not the best. So if you see something you enjoy, if you're taking a class and you like it, try to get involved. Ask a professor, ask someone who who works in that field. Like, really go out of your comfort zone. It is paid off immensely for me. Like, I am currently doing something that I only could have dreamed of doing, years ago. And that's as a result of me really finding out what I'm passionate about, and really grinding to pursue that. So that would be the advice that I would give, is find out what you love doing. Use university as an opportunity to find out what you love doing. Definitely try really hard, regardless of what it is that you're doing, but find out what you love doing, and use this as an opportunity to do that, and don't waste this time.
Yeah, 100%. The sentiment of just pursuing your passions, whether that be academically or in your extracurriculars, is super important. And as a current student, I think it's made my Brock experience more like just enriching and kind of more fulfilling overall. So that is awesome advice, Alex. So that was our last question for today. But Alex, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and sharing your Brock experience with us, and all of your wisdom. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see everyone next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, you can contact us by email at futurestudent@brocku.ca.